So as you can see, the budget BMW is coming along very nicely, but there is a huge problem with this car.
Quit asking me questions. Yeah, I know you, but we ain't friends. Quit asking me questions.
Now, I first discovered this issue a couple of days back when I all of a sudden, out of the blue, felt a really harsh vibration coming from somewhere along the drivetrain. Now, this issue is making the car undrivable, and this was my daily, and I'm having to daily the purple Micra at the minute, which is great, but I am sorely missing this, so I'm desperate to get it fixed, so let's get it in the unit.
But I got no Maybachs. They do anything for the clout.
Now, for those of you who are maybe new to the channel and haven't seen all of the videos on the budget Beamer, we have done so much to this car already. I bought this car for £1,400 in Birmingham, and the car was in a complete state. Pretty much everything was broken. I could list probably all of the things that were working on one hand. So we have done an extensive amount to this car. So we have done a service, fitted new Brembo brakes, fitted new wheels, replaced the old broken rear trailing arm. We have fitted a new windscreen, replaced all of the interior, fixed the speaker system, done a taillight refurb and a second oil change. We have got new badges, new plates, a new boot, a new door. We've added cup holders to the interior. We have fixed the gear knob wobble issue and also fitted a new gear knob. We have replaced the battery, and finally we have fitted a hardtop, and we still have so much to do. Now, in the previous video, we put on these temporary wheels because the wheels that we had purchased were not in great condition and they needed a refurbishment desperately. So we took them to a place called My Alloys, who are absolute legends. I'll leave their link in the description below, and look at how they have transformed our wheels.
Oh man, I got a lot of gold. Stack that bread and vomit nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible.
So yeah, My Alloys have completely smashed these wheels. They look brand new, and we have also fitted some new center caps, as you can see. We will fit these wheels on today towards the end of the video with these 15mm spacers. I'm hoping these will make our fitment 10 times better. Now, some of you may also remember that we sent off this driver's seat to a leather upholsterer called GP Customs to get the massive rip down this bolster fixed. And as you can see, you would never know that there was a rip there. GP Customs are absolute legends. They are wizards, and we did put this seat in off camera. So yeah, it's in now, looking perfect, job done. Now, we have also fit these chrome grills onto the car. We did this a couple of days back, and if you remember, the old grills were rubbish. They were broken, they didn't look great. So these were a much needed replacement. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to get the Beamer on the ramp, and we are going to try and diagnose this issue. We have bought a prop shaft donut in preparation. We think it's that. But yeah, let's get the car up on the ramp and have a look. So as we suspected, the prop shaft donut is in dreadful condition. If you look closely, you can see there are some really big cracks in the rubber. Now, the problem that we are experiencing is very loud juddering. Now, whether this is causing that noise or not, I'm not 100% sure, but we do have a lovely new prop shaft donut to replace it. I'm hoping we don't have to remove the exhaust to get this fitted. So only time will tell whether this fixes that noise, but let's get this on. The first step was to undo the 6 18mm bolts with my ratchet and spanner.
The step of rapping, my life is hella deep, dog. You couldn't even.
So we ran into a little issue with one of these prop shaft donut bolts. Basically, it was very stiff. It wasn't undoing whatsoever. So we have mutilated our 18mm spanner so that we can put it inside this big red pole to get some more leverage, and hopefully with the breaker bar on one side and that on the other side, we should be able to get enough leverage to get these bolts off. So yeah, let's do it. You ready? Give it a pull. So guys, this is where we ran into our first issue. Basically, to summarize, these prop shaft donuts have a metal sleeve which is threaded for each of the bolts, and because this bolt was so seized into that metal thread, when we twisted it with this red pole and the breaker bar, it ended up just twisting the entire sleeve in the prop shaft donut, which meant we had to get out the angle grinder and just cut the bolt out, which was an absolute nightmare. Right, you're not gonna believe it, but we didn't get it on camera, but we finally got this out. Look at the mess up there. I mean, that is Oh. So after removing the seized bolt, I could then move on to undoing the remainder of the bolts, and then we could get in the new parts. Now, I'm planning on actually removing the whole prop shaft and taking it out so that not only we can fit this new prop shaft donor, but so we can also fit this, which is the center bearing. I picked up this center bearing for £17, 17. BMW sells this for £98, so I got a very good deal on this. So the center bearing sits just up there, if you can see it, and it's basically responsible for stopping prop shaft play. My thinking is that a new prop shaft donor and a new center bearing will help get rid of that juddering noise from the drivetrain. So the plan to remove the prop shaft is to kind of undo the bolts that attaches the prop to the diff, and also remove this metal bracing and the metal shielding over there, and hopefully we should be able to bring the prop down and kind of carefully slide it out in this direction. That's the plan, at least. Let's see if we can do it. Ooh, that didn't sound good. Oh no. Well, I guess the heat shielding's not going back on.
Wanna see you with your hands up, going straight to the sky.
So, after removing the metal bracing and undoing the bolts that connect the prop to the diff, I could then start undoing the bolts that connect this metal pan to the bottom of the car. And the reason why I needed to undo this was because I could then access the nuts that hold in the center bearing. So after undoing those center bearing nuts, the prop shaft was technically free, but it was kind of seized on at the end next to the differential, so it needed a bit of persuading with the hammer. Off. Hey. You pull. And there we have a prop shaft.
I've been running out of time, think I need to rewind, feeling out of line. I put everything.
So now the prop shaft was off the car, I could work on splitting it into its two halves in order to fit the new center bearing. This is so bodge. Ooh. Now that the prop shaft was back together with the new center bearing, I could now slide it into position, and then I could work on getting the new prop shaft donor on, which is just a case of tightening up the 6 18mm bolts with the ratchet and spanner. It was then just a matter of tightening up the bolts which connect the prop to the diff, as well as doing up the nuts for the center bearing. I also had to fit back on the metal bracing and do those bolts up as well. And to finish off, we could fit the metal pan back onto the car as well. So the new prop shaft donor and the new center bearing alongside the prop shaft itself are now fitted back onto the budget BMW. We're now going to move on to the suspension. So whilst working on the prop shaft underneath the car, I have discovered that the bottom of both of the rear springs has snapped off, which is shortening the spring, which is making the rear of the car sit lower than the front. Now, to solve our suspension problems, I picked up this set of BC Racing coilovers, which were very kindly donated to me by Matt Armstrong, and they came off his beautiful E46 M3. Now, the plan was to refurb these coilovers. Now, both of them looked like this one in a dreadful state. And as you can see, the one that we have refurbed looks amazing. But the reason why we haven't refurbed this one is because the dampening is broken and also the bottom is seized up. So we actually can't really use this one. So that's why you haven't seen these so far in this video, because we're not fitting them to the car. But we will be using these springs that Matt Armstrong gave us. Hopefully, these will be a good replacement for the rear springs that are on the car at the minute. So let's get them on the car. Now, ladies and gents, changing the rear spring on an E46 is dead simple. All I had to do was undo the bottom shock bolt, maneuver the old spring out, get the new spring in and make sure it was seated correctly, and then finally do up the bottom shock bolt again. It is dead easy. Now that I had replaced the springs, I could then move on to getting on the newly refurbished wheels and also the 15mm spacers. Right, so two good things. The BMW is now looking unreal with this wheel and spacer combo. The fitment is almost perfect. I think some coilovers will top it off. And also, the prop shaft didn't make any funny noises when I drove it out of the unit, so that's pretty reassuring, and I think we've done that correctly. The final thing we are going to do is clean the BMW, because all of you moan at me that I don't get my cars clean, so we're cleaning it now, and we're going to fit a sun strip, so let's do it. So we finished off the sun strip with a glorious Lowe's UK sticker, and now the E46 was looking stunning. Right guys, the budget BMW is now looking absolutely stunning. It's spotless. Now, whilst the budget BMW is looking stunning, it's missing the cherry on the cake in a couple of sprays from Cloudburst's Odor Eliminator, and these guys have sponsored today's video. Now, all you need to do to make your car smell like your favorite designer fragrance is to buy some Cloudburst, put a couple sprays in your car, and wait, your odors will be eliminated and your car will be smelling beautiful. So if you are interested in getting your hands on some Cloudburst, then click the link below this video and use the code JACK10 at the checkout for 10% off. Boris, mate, he needs some Cloudburst, I think. Oh, smells better. So the budget BMW is now smelling unreal thanks to Cloudburst, and it's also looking unreal partially thanks to Lowe's UK. If you guys did want to pick up a sticker or a hoodie, one like this, then you can use the link in the description below. Click that, buy yourself whatever you want. It really does help out the channel. But if not, then liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing is more than enough. So make sure to do that if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Quit asking me questions. Yeah, I know you, but we ain't friends.